Welcome back, everybody. When we last left our hero explorer, the hero is able to throw a switch and make the doors move, but then the doors never come back. So we need to fix that. So we want to make it so that after a set amount of time, those switches come back and the doors return. And I was thinking it'd be fun to make it so skeletons cannot get through doors. So we're going to do all that in this part 2 of the red door switch mechanic. Okay, so we're looking forward to this one. I know I am. Just want to remind you, in case you missed part of last tutorial, there is the code for create. Look to make sure there's nothing changed on there, and then collision with object player. A couple things we're going to take advantage of is this idea of is activated. Remember, the switch can be activated or not. We also set the doors clear to be true, that there's nothing blocking the door. We're going to take advantage of both of those variables as we work through this tutorial. Okay, so now we have collision with the object player. At the end, when we set the alarm to go off, after setting is activated to true, we need to know what happens when the alarm goes off. So what's going to happen is when the alarm goes off, we're going to move all the doors back. But if there's an object blocking that, it's going to get stuck in there, including our player, and then it can't move. And it's going to look either buggy or it's going to ruin gameplay for us, for our player. So we don't want either of those to happen. So that's what that doors are clear is set to do. So what we need to do is we are basically going to loop during step just to check to see if doors are clear or not. However, the only time we really need to check to see if doors are clear is when is activated is set to true. Okay, so when is activated is set to true, then we can check to see if the doors are still clear, because that means the switch has been thrown. We don't really need to check when the switch is back and is activated equals true. So let's do that. We're going to add our event. It's going to be step. Okay, we're going to also execute code. Just going to get that out. And let's get this environment all nice and big so we can see. Looks good to me. All right, so now what we're going to do is the first thing we want to do is only do all this stuff if the switch is activated. So I'll put a little comment on here. So here's what we're going to do. If the switch has been thrown, in other words, it's activated, then we're going to set doors are clear to true. Okay, so now we're going to do this. Basically, the idea here is we'll just assume that they're clear and then find out if they're not. So we're going to loop through all of the red doors. We need to go through all of them. All right, whoa. If any of the doors' original positions are blocked, okay, then, I keep doing that. Control Z. Oh, come on. And then we'll set doors are clear to false. Okay, so much for my fancy copy and paste trick there. Well, that's pretty lame. All right, let's do it though. If is activated. Oh, now we could say if is activated is equal to true, but is activated is either false or true. We don't have to actually make the comparison because it's a Boolean variable. It's pretty cool if you ask me. Okay. So if it's activated, then we're going to set doors are clear to true. So we're going to say, yeah, the doors are true, but then we're going to loop. All right, so we're going to use our for loop for var I equals 0, I is less than array. I'm going to do array length 1D. Let's put little spaces in here. I like spaces around my operators. It makes the operator stand out a little bit more. Okay, so array length 1D tells us how many items there are in an array, and that is the red doors variable. Okay. And then we're going to put I plus plus, no space there because that's called an incrementer. Close that, do our curly brackets here like so. Okay, so now we're going to loop through, and then we're going to check if, and to check a collision, it's called place meeting. I know, it's kind of funny. I would have called it if collision, but no, place meeting, whatever. All right, and in here, we're going to do red doors, index position I. This is how we can check each of the doors because we're going to loop through them all. So the first loop, that I will be the first door, will help identify the first door, then the second, then the third. However many doors we happen to have. Okay, so we do the if place meeting, red doors I. I'm going to put a .x start, and I'm going to put red doors. We have to set an X and a Y position to check. So we're going to do X start and Y start. Okay, if in those locations there happens to be anything, so we're going to check for anything. We're going to use the keyword all. Okay. And then notice place meeting has a parenthesis, and the if has a parenthesis. So these are opening. We have one closing. We need one more closing parenthesis. And I'm going to drag this out a little bit further so you can just kind of see all of that. Then we do our curly brackets, and we're going to say close the curly brackets. We're not going to say it. We're going to do it. And we go on here. Okay, so if there happens to be anything, and that's what the all is about, any object, it's going to check all objects to see if they're there. If any of them are there, then we're going to set the doors are clear to false. So we have to actually loop through each one of those. But once we change it to false, okay, so here's the deal. We start by setting it to true. And we're not going to run this again in this step. So we start by setting it to true, and we have to do that each time. It's sort of like a reset. It's like turn it off and on again. And then we're going to loop through all of our red doors, and if there happens to be anything located in any of them, it's going to set doors are clear to false, and nothing is going to change that until after we're done with the step. So this will happen, at least we're guaranteed to have this happen once every step. All right, and that's really all we need to do. Okay, so that just tells us, this is just basically to find out, are the doors clear or not? This idea of the if is activated as a way of starting, it just allows us to basically find out, you know what, if the switch hasn't been activated, there's no need to even do any of this check. Okay, it's not until that switch gets thrown that we want to do all this check, because that's when we're going to close the door or not. Okay, or yeah, like return the doors to their closed position or whatever you want to call it, move them back. All right. So there we have that. And so we're still on the object red switch. All right, so that's our step event. And now when we collide, we do all this stuff, and we have this alarm, right? So the alarm is what's going on. It's when the alarm goes off that we're going to move the doors back. Okay, it's not in the collision. Okay. The collision is what throws and moves the doors. The alarm going off is what tells it it's time to move the doors back. So we're going to set an alarm. Now what we're going to do is when that alarm goes off, okay, we're going to check to see if anything is, we're going to check to see if the doors are clear. If they're clear, we're going to move the red doors back, all of them. But if they're not, we're going to set a new timer for a very short amount of time and check one more time. Now, we're going to go ahead and do this as a script. So I'd like you to, at this point, if you're following along, right-click on scripts, choose Create Script. We're going to give it a name. Script underscore red door alarm. Hit enter. All right, I want you to double-click on that script red door alarm. That's this. So we're just going to grab execute code, and let's go ahead and do this using nice big giant screen here as well. Okay. So on our script, we're going to check to see if the doors are clear. And I'm not going to give all that comment again. Remember how we did that if doors are clear? We do it the same way like we did the is activated. And we're going to have an else structure in here. So I just want you to see the way this structured. This is an if-else check. Okay, so if the doors are clear, we want to move everything back, play the sound, do all that good stuff. Otherwise, we're just going to reset the alarm and call the script again. Okay, so if the doors are clear, then we're going to throw the switch, object red, oh, not red door, red switch. Okay, we're going to set its image index. This is the thing that sets the sub image. We're going to set it back to 0. That means the switch will be thrown back to the left. We're going to play our sound, which is audio, play sound. And the sound is sound doors. Am I right? Yep, sound doors, 50. And we're going to do false. And of course, it has a priority of 50 that I set. And false means it's not going to loop. Okay, and hold on a second. Okay, once we play the sound, we should also set the is activated to false again, because it's no longer being active. It's not active, it's inactive. Okay, and then we're going to move all the red doors back. We're going to do this as a loop. Now we only change the Y position. That's the only thing we have to change, but we have to do a loop through all of our red doors. Bar I. If you haven't figured out why we're doing that, rewatch the video and the one before it. Sometimes down arrows faster than anything else. Okay, so now to move all the red doors back, we're going to reference the red doors. Index position I, which allows us to loop and do this to each door one at a time. Dot Y, we're going to set its Y position to its starting position, which is pretty straightforward. It's just red doors, oops, I dot Y start, like so. All right, what happens if we can't move all that back? The else means the doors are not clear. So we just can't do all this stuff yet. We have to wait till they are clear. So what are we going to do? We're going to set an alarm. This time it has to be a different alarm than alarm 0. So then we're going to set alarm 1. And believe me, I tried it and it didn't work. So just trust me on here. If you set the same alarm 0, it's going to make it so that you can't actually keep throwing the switch. It's kind of weird. So we have 2 separate alarms. But alarm 0 and alarm 1 are both going to run this piece of code. Okay, so let's do that right now. So we go back to the red switch, and we're going to add an alarm event, alarm 0. What happens when alarm 0 goes off? We're going to go under common, it's execute script. And the script is the one we just wrote, red door alarm. And then we're going to just duplicate this for alarm 1. Duplicate event, alarm, alarm 1. They both run the script. Now this should work. Let's go ahead and test it out though. Does the switch go back? I'm going to wait here just to see, does it come back? It does. Can't go through the doors. Throw it again. Now we're going to go occupy the door for a little bit. We're just going to wait here for a while, watch the skeletons come back and forth. And now, as soon as I move out, it comes. Okay, let me try that one more time. So there's kind of like a 5 frame, which is 30 frames a second. So it's actually 1/6 of a second. So it should almost look like the moment I get out of the way, the door should come back. There we go. So we can't get through there anymore. Now the other thing is our skeletons can go through the doors. See? They went through the door. There's another little issue there too, which I think is interesting. When I'm colliding with this wall, I can't go down. I mean, I can go up, but I can go down. I can't go up. I have to get away from the door. That's kind of annoying. So we're probably going to want to change that a little bit. All right, but in the meanwhile, let's just go ahead and let's do the next part. And the idea here is our skeletons. Right now, we set it on create to follow the path and to pick a random position along the path. All right, one of the things I want to do is do this all in GML. I want to show you the nice thing about GML. And then I'll show you what an easy fix it is so that when the skeleton collides with the door, it just moves in the opposite direction. So we're actually going to delete these. So I want you to delete those, and we're going to do execute code because it's kind of fun. It's nice to be able to execute code and learn how to do it all in GML. So let's do that now. So this is actually pretty simple. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to start the skeleton on a path. And it's path start. Pretty straightforward. Now in our path start, we need to give it some arguments. The first one is path 1A. That's the one we created. So you might want to double check what you named your path. Path 1A. The next thing is how fast we want to go. That's a 3. By the way, this is the same things that we were doing in that one drag and drop. The next thing is what happens at the end. And so on here, we're going to set a path action. And these are our options. They're all path actions, right? You can do continue, restart, reverse, or stop. I'm going to do reverse. That means when we get to the end of the path, we head back. And then finally, it's had to do with whether it's relative or not, and we set it to true. I don't know if you recall, but that's what we did. And let's just double click on here, get this a little bit more open. And then the last thing we did is pick a random position on the path. And that was path position. And we're going to set it equal to random 1. And it's going to be between 0 and 1. It's going to be some kind of a decimal point number, very precise. That was pretty straightforward. It should run identical. Let's just make sure I didn't make any errors in my code. So you should still see the skeletons following the paths. That looks pretty good. Let's do one other thing before we do the next step. Let's go to our room. And let's just view the entire room. I want you to see kind of what's going on. So we're going to temporarily disable viewports and run it one more time so you can kind of see what's going on. And you'll be able to see now the entire room and where all the skeletons are. Now what we're trying to do is make it so the skeletons cannot just go through those doors like you see. So this is a very easy fix. I go to my object skeleton and I add a collision with a red door. Object red door. And I'm going to execute code again. And I'm going to close that. Okay, so it turns out we have a variable, path speed. Path speed. So path speed is the speed at which it's going. Right now, I set it to 3. When it reverses, it gets to the end of the path, that speed becomes a -3. So a positive speed is going from the beginning to the end of the path. Negative is from the end to the beginning of the path. So if all we do is make the path speed the opposite of what it was before, that changes its direction, whether it was positive or negative. So we're going to say path speed equals negative path speed. It's that simple. And so let's put a little comment there so you can see what's going on. Reverse direction on the path. Let's see if it works. All right, take a look. You see that door right there? That one, it keeps hitting it, and then it kind of hits this door. That looks weird, the way it's going into behind there. Looks strange, but that one hit. The key, what you're looking for, is to make sure they don't get stuck on doors. Now, this one's stuck here, and I don't know what's up with that. I'm going to try to fix that through the path. And then hopefully we can get that going. So a lot of times when you make a change, you just have to try something out here. I've got path selected. I'm going to take the grid off, and I'm going to move this dot to the left a little bit more and see if that works. Well, there's no hidden skeleton there, so that's always good. Let's go ahead and try this out. So now watch what happens when I flip the doors. So that skeleton now goes outside to another area. Now I'm safe in this region. No one can get to me. But if I throw the switch, which I have to do to get out of this area, I expose myself. And so I might want to wait until the skeletons are moving in the opposite direction. Oh, see? And I chose poorly. All right, but at this point, if that's working, and it looks like it is, I would just enable viewports and go back to your regular game. Now, I do think this is annoying, that thing going back and forth that looked really odd. So I'm going to take this dot here, move it. Oh, see, and there's another one there. All right, let's just see if that looks a little more normal before I finish this tutorial. Of course, your job, oh yeah, see, there it goes. It's kind of like bouncing around. And it doesn't look strange. It's not going under blocks. You may wish to sort of like just examine the room for a while. Make sure there's no skeletons doing really odd things like getting stuck or moving through or behind blocks. I think this is pretty good. So I think we're ready to put the paths back on, enable viewports, play a little bit while I let you go. So thank you so much for watching. In my next tutorial, I think I'm going to work on a pickup mechanic where we have different items we can pick up to give us health, give us score, give us lives, etc. All right, thank you so much. Stay tuned for more. Thanks for watching.